Good evening, everybody. Welcome back, Spartan Nation. Very excited to bring this guy in. I have written predictions for him before. He's a really good writer for Penn Live, which is the equivalent of M Live here in Michigan. And you guys know what we think. Kyle Austin, the terrific Michigan State basketball writer, and Matt Wenzel, the terrific Michigan State football writer. We love the guys at M Live. Dustin Hockenson is his name. Dustin, I want to make sure I said it right. Hockensmith, correct?
You got it. Just how it looks.
All right, because with a name like Hondo, it's important to get people's names right.
Absolutely. I understand that completely.
Dustin, let's start really quick. First of all, in the interest of full disclosure, I am not a fan of James Franklin. I don't know how long you've been covering the team. At his very first press conference, which was at Big Ten Media Days, the first year, I said to him, you told the players at Vanderbilt you weren't leaving and cried about it. After you'd already accepted the Penn State job, but you were waiting to get approval by the NCAA when you'd already accepted the job. And I said, then you tell the fans at Penn State who've been to hell and back that you had better facilities at Vanderbilt, which anyone who's ever been to both knows was completely untrue. And I said to James Franklin, are you a liar or are you disingenuous? And I love Penn State. I love the program. I love the fans. I'm friends with so many former players, but I'm not a fan of James Franklin. I think he consistently gets outcoached. I think he's a great recruiter. But one thing I want to give him credit for, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong. This year he has stayed out of the way of his coaches, and I think you can see this is a much better Penn State product. Dustin, am I being unfair to him? And if not, give us your thoughts. And please, you are the expert. So if you disagree, I trust you.
Well, we're just doing a cannonball right into the pool on this one. I appreciate that. I think inside his program walls, I think he's a genuine guy. And I think with the messages that he gives his players now, and honestly, I think any coach who's on their way out from any program, and a lot of them have not been totally forthcoming with their players and publicly and all that. But I think the players, he's a real players coach, and I think sometimes, the thing that rubs people the wrong way, and it does come off as disingenuous, is that, his media briefings and all that kind of stuff, he lays it on pretty thick. His whole routine, and he has this set of talking points, and he comes on pretty strong with the good guy routine. And I think it's easy to portray that as disingenuous from the outside. I think it's interesting what you say about him kind of getting out of the way. I think he's got a long way to go, and it's interesting. I'm not sure, as a game day coach, the interesting question is, are you born with that, or is that something that can be developed over time? Is it some combination thereof? He's got a long way to go, because even just last week against Michigan, going into the half, he made a couple interesting choices that he wished he would have had back in clock management. I think I'm not sure he's best in-game coach, but, he's put together a roster that's really, really strong, really fast, really athletic. They're still pretty young yet, but you haven't seen, I think maybe one game this year they played a pretty strong full 60 minutes. Even beating Michigan last week, they played about a good 30 minutes, and there's some head scratching stuff in between. So it's a talented team. It's a team that's been pretty uneven. And to your point about coaching, I think Mark Antonio has had his number a little bit, so that's going to be a real big factor, I think, in this team this weekend.
We're talking to Dustin Hockensmith, who does a really good job for Penn Live covering Penn State. And I love getting other perspectives because I'm not there every day. And I love it when people aren't afraid. I don't like yes people on the radio. If I'm right, that's fine. But I like people who are willing to disagree. And he disagreed on a couple points. And I'm glad that, because I want to be fair. I don't want my dislike of James Franklin to make me be untruthful. I don't want that. Dustin, when he went to Penn State, I called him a snake oil salesman. And a lot of people who are Penn State fans hate me for it. But the reason I said it was because, to me, Penn State is an elite job. Penn State is a place that should have a Nick Saban. Penn State is a place that should have a Dabo Swinney. Just to me, I have so much respect for the place. That was why I said those words. It wasn't disrespect for the program, and dear God, it wasn't disrespect because I think they have some of the best fans in America. A lot of people have said that maybe Michigan State's getting them because they're off the whiteout, they're off of game day. But anyone that's close to this knows James Franklin hates Mark D'Antonio, and Mark D'Antonio hates James Franklin. I'm not expecting any letdown at all. True or false?
I think that's true. I think it's you have two coaches who come from two very different walks of life, two very different perspectives on the game, two very different approaches to managing and building a program. James Franklin's kind of all about the sizzle, and Mark D'Antonio is kind of all about the steak, isn't he? So you have two coaches who are very different. I wouldn't expect them to get along, especially the way the series has gone between them. I also think that Penn State in general has been a pretty consistent program from 1 week to the next. You have the ups and the downs that come with 18 to 22 playing the game of football, and Penn State hasn't been completely into that, but they haven't really fallen flat on a lot of occasions under James Franklin. So I really think it's a tip of the cap to him. It's going to be interesting, this young team, the further they go with that zero in the loss column, the more the pressure builds, the more high profile the program becomes. Are they ready for all that? And we're getting into unknown territory because this is not a really experienced team. And so this is going to be a challenging road trip. To your point, it is coming off of a really emotional high. And you could see, after that game against Michigan ended, the kind of elation that comes with winning a game like that in an environment like that. And so now it'll be decidedly different. I think they're going to be ready, but I do understand the sort of approach here.
Dustin, I don't know how long you've been on the beat, but were you on the beat when Michigan State scored a touchdown with an offensive lineman?
Yeah, I was. So I don't do traveling and stuff like that now, but I do remember that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that to me, that was D'Antonio's punch in the eye of Franklin, and that to me is why it's
Absolutely.
never been the same. Dustin, I want to
add. And then
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Both these coaches, if they get an opportunity to run it up, they're going to take the opportunity to do it. I don't think Saturday's going to play like that. But if there's a chance one way or the other, I don't think either coach is going to be averse to doing it.
Dustin, I love this Penn State defense. I know we saw Michigan go off a little bit, but I think that was more youth than even coaching. But man, they're fast, they're athletic, they're so good. How good is this Penn State defense in your opinion?
It's good and getting better, and I think the speed and the aggression with which they fly to the football has been the real thing that stands out. Now, against Michigan and against some of these teams that are going to do that power running game, they're going to play some possession football. Surely Michigan State would like to fall into that category on Saturday. It's unfair because they're on the field for 82 plays compared to 54 for the offense. When Penn State really hit a rut against Michigan, real quick 3 and outs, and the ability to stay fresh under those circumstances will definitely put you to the test. And I think Michigan's going to present that challenge to just about any defense, but they're strong up front. They're strong on the edges. The pass rush, when it's at its best, can be a really harassing group. The interior of the line's pretty good, pretty stout. The linebackers are a pretty special group. There's a good mix of talent. You have a true senior in Cam Brown, who didn't really arrive at Penn State as much. He was an okay prospect. At 6'5", he came in about 210 pounds. It took a lot of work to get to this point where he is now, where he's fast and physical. Michael Parsons, 14 tackles last week. He's a true sophomore, one of the top prospects in the country in the 2018 class. He's got some special athleticism. They're using him in different ways this season. They rotate a lot of guys in all of those positions. So that's going to be an interesting thing that plays out. They don't really care what the game circumstances are. They will play a true freshman. They will play a second or third stringer. Their commitment is from a program building standpoint and from a keeping guys fresh in the fourth quarter standpoint. You're going to see a lot of faces cycling in and out. That's just kind of what they do. That's their approach. And like I said, it doesn't matter what the game situation is. It could be a 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. You could see some reserves in there. That's just what they do.
Dustin, what's your prediction? Obviously, we give you can change it before game time, but right now, if you had to predict, what's your prediction, winner and score?
I've got a 27-17 for Penn State. I'm very leery of that because the way the last two meetings have gone, and especially last year's Michigan State pretty much reinventing itself in a 1-week turnaround. I'm interested in the coaching matchup, but I think the Penn State team, very talented. I think it's going to travel this weekend. I like them to win and to cover, and I like it for any wagers to come in a little short of the over-under.
I am stunned that you think Michigan State's offense will score 17 points. He's Dustin Hockensmith, does a terrific job. Follow him on Twitter. I do. Just does a really good job. He's thorough. I actually really enjoy him. The thing I like most about a writer is if him and I are at the same event and I can read him and learn something, I like the way they think. That's Dustin. We'll be back.